I thought for 10 seconds, and bolted straight for the door. I knew they were coming after me, but I didn't stop running, my bare feet pounding against the grass until I got to the woods. I thought about escaping for years, but it never played out like this in any of my dreams. It was warm and pretty peaceful out. All I could hear was my fingers turning the pages and my own voice reading the story. Suddenly, I was shaken by a loud screech of car tires. I looked up, terrified. I thought there had been an accident. As my eyes reached the road, my view was blocked by an old-looking black van, screeching to a halt right beside where I was sitting. The doors slid open, and 2 men wearing dirty clothes appeared and came lunging towards me, like 2 bulls being released from their gates. Their hands wrapped around me like giants, grabbing me by the waist and legs. I flailed my limbs around and screamed at the top of my lungs for help. Everything happened so quickly, I didn't stand a chance. As I was being dragged into the van, I looked towards the gas station to see my sister and her friend screaming, their eyes filling with tears. Some of them ran into the shop for help, while my sister dropped to her knees crying, screaming my name. I will never forget the face she made as the door of the van slammed close. This was like slamming shut a chapter of my life. The happiest chapter. One I would never get back. I was laid on my chest, pinned to the floor of the van, as one of the men sat with his knee across my back while the other tied my arms and legs together. I couldn't breathe. When they finished, I sat in the corner of the van gasping for air. I remember one of their voices. It was deep and rough. When I managed to answer, the van went silent for what seemed like an eternity. That's when I was lifted off the ground, heard a loud crack, and felt something hit me across my ribs, knocking all of the air out of me. One of them had taken a belt and struck me with it. Soon after came another crack, followed by another and then another until I was tossed into the corner like a piece of trash. I was warned that had happened because of my bad behavior, and it would happen again if I continued. I sat there in silence with my eyes closed for the rest of the journey. I'd had my eyes closed in the back of a dark van for hours. I had no idea what time it was or how long we had traveled, but I knew it was a long time. The doors slid open, and I saw an old, scary, abandoned-looking house surrounded by trees. We got greeted by 3 more men coming to drag me inside. As we walked into the main room, I noticed 5 other girls with their teary eyes glued to me as I walked through the room. They were all tied to various objects around the room like animals in a zoo, their eyes filled with tears as they saw me. I was thrown to the floor and tied to a pole next to a very pretty female. All of the men then left the room and we were alone in silence again. I looked at her and quickly asked, "Where are we? And what's going to happen to me?" She didn't answer, but started to cry. She was trying to hide her emotions to not scare me, but it was no use. She burst into tears. When I saw this, I started having a panic attack, struggling to breathe and choking on my tears. I didn't know where the men had been, but when they came back, they drugged us and we all passed out. I began to open my eyes. I felt sick, dizzy, and couldn't focus on things. When I started coming round, I noticed I was back in the nasty black van with all the girls slowly starting to wake up. I didn't really feel anything now. I just felt numb. I looked over to see 2 of the girls still sleeping. I then heard the man with the rough voice say, "They couldn't handle it. Don't look at them, love. They're gone." Gone? As in, that thought should have terrified me, but whatever they had given me, I was emotionless like a zombie. We arrived at a rich-looking building. It was big and white, like a mansion that you see in the movies. They took the 4 of us out of the van and let us inside, through a big open hallway with marble floors. I don't know what happened to the other two. We didn't see them again. They then dressed us all in nice and pretty-looking clothes and led us into a room. We seemed to be behind a curtain. I heard names being called out, but not our own. We were brought out onto a stage one by one, and rich, ugly, old men would offer money if they wanted us. When it came close to being my turn, I turned around and started to try and escape from the room, but I was so out of it, I didn't stand a chance. This was the next chapter of my life. For years, over and over, new girls would come and disappear. Each time I was sold, we would move to a different place all over the country. I lost count quickly, just how many times. I thought about my family every day, and knew that one day I was going to escape and see them again. I would dream about it, envision it, to the point I could fight my way out of every possible escape scenario. I'd had the same bodyguard for the 4 years I was there. It was strange. I hated him as much as I hated all of them, but we had built up a strange trust. One day, as we were getting ready, I watched as one man left the room to get the stuff before my bodyguard trailed after him, saying, "Don't escape, I'll be back in a minute." I had thought about this moment for years, but it never played out like this in any of my dreams. I thought for 10 seconds and bolted for the door. I ran a mile, my bare feet pounding against the grass until I got to some woods. I got deep inside and hid in the thick forest for 2 hours. At one point, I heard people shouting, searching for me, and then silence. When that silence came, I got up and started running again, like I was running for my life. I ran and ran for what felt like hours until I reached a town. I walked down into the town. I didn't know what to do or who to tell. Who could I even trust? I started running again. I felt excited, delirious even. Then, all of a sudden, a white fog started to engulf my vision, and I passed out. I woke up in a bed with tubes coming out of my arms. I got scared because they were IVs, and it brought up memories of what would happen if we resisted. I screamed and started going nuts as 2 nurses and a doctor came running in. Once they calmed me down, I began to tell them my story. They stood there in shock as my words filled the room. One nurse even cried. The police were called, and I was interviewed right there in the hospital bed. My parents were also called. It turned out I was 5 states away from them at this point, so it took them a couple of days to arrive. I didn't feel safe the whole time. Every time the door opened, I thought it was them coming to take me back. When my parents arrived, the door swung open, and they stood there for a moment. Surrounded by the light behind them, we all burst into tears. I was safe. This felt like the next chapter of my life opening up. After giving the police the best directions I could back to the building I had escaped from, 9 employees were arrested, along with the boss of the company. The people who were caught were serving life sentences in prison. I also saved 7 other girls who were found in that building. They were so grateful, and we all stayed in the hospital for a week together before we were able to live our normal lives. Since then, I got a therapist, and she has helped me so much. I resented my sister Alex at first. I blamed her for leaving me on that corner and not doing anything to help. Really, there was nothing anyone could have done apart from being more careful in the first place and staying together in a group. It's been 2.5 years since this happened, and my life is coming back together. I now have a wonderful boyfriend, amazing grades, a very close family, loving and kind friends, and I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. My life is finally full again, and for my protection, I took karate and boxing classes. Please remember that this happens every day, all around the world, and many girls aren't as lucky as myself. Some will be gone forever.